Hello, my name is Scott Wilson. I am the Writing Across the Disciplines Coordinator at Luther College. I also teach English at the college and have done a variety of different roles at the U of R over the years, which I'll talk a little bit about so I can talk to you today about my teaching and my research. I'm going to go all the way back. When I'm asked to do presentations like this and talk to students about research, I find it's always good to kind of think about it in terms of like how I got here, and I think it kind of started really early. I was born 7 weeks premature, and I know we're on Zoom a lot these days, but if in person, I'm a pretty big guy, so I'm like 6'2", about 250 most of the time, and I was born about 7 weeks premature, and the doctors at the time were kind of worried about stunted growth and uh, possible neurological problems, developmental problems. And my mom was rightfully, I think, freaking out about this. And a nurse said to her, read to him and everything will be fine. And my parents were readers, but she just really obsessively took this to heart. And I think that's the English degree thing, is that love of books. We always had books in the house, and I was far too young reading my dad's Stephen King collection because I'd already run through all the Hardy Boys books and all this kind of stuff. And I think it was grade 2 or 3. And I was sitting there reading Cujo in class, and my teacher was like kind of scolding me and saying, "Do your parents know you're reading this?" And I was like, "Yeah, my dad lent me the book. It's fine." And so it's kind of been a little bit odd. I used to read all these uh, scary books, and some of the stuff that I teach has a bit of like a morbid twist to it, and I'm also a writing teacher now, and Stephen King's On Writing is pretty much one of the best books of writing instruction. So Stephen King books recently, and um, I think that those things feed into some of the stuff I do with talking about serial killer literature, talking about some transgressive fiction. I do some kind of mystery horror stuff in classes. So things that aren't maybe uh, thought of as classic works of literature, things that I'm interested in. I'm back in Regina now. I moved out here for grad school, but I started off here. I was born at Regina General. I lived in Moose Jaw. My dad used to fix snowbirds, and so we were always at air shows, and I ended up in Trenton, Ontario when I was about 10, and then moved to CFB Edmonton a little shortly after that. And I think all of these kind of new places, new experiences on different bases, having your friends sort of shift places all the time has always been part of my life. And I find the university kind of operates like that too. You're in and out of different classes, you see different people, people are transferring in and out, they're coming from all over the world. And I think that's a little bit of where I found some of that comfort when I was finally at the University of Alberta uh, years ago. The plan certainly wasn't to be speaking to Lusa today as a professor. uh, I always liked school. I was always really good in English classes. I liked writing. I was kind of did creative writing as a hobby. I was kind of like a voracious reader of books and comic books. When I was doing my undergraduate degree at the University of Alberta in Edmonton, I had a full-time job at the grocery store. I'd worked there since high school. They put me in charge of the grocery department. So I worked kind of evening shifts, evenings and nights, weekends, and had a lot of time hanging out with my friends. Probably did that far too much, but I think when we're back on campus and the world kind of gets back to some sense of normalcy in terms of being able to socialize and stuff, that kind of time that you're going to spend with your peers, and organizations like Lusa are good ways to meet other people with like sort of similar interests. And I certainly wasn't a model student um, in my undergraduate degree, but I think I learned a lot about people and interacting with them. I learned a lot about time management. I think a lot of my classroom management abilities come from managing a grocery store. Oddly enough, I think being able to do committee work comes from being able to interact with the sort of customer service experience where you maybe don't agree with people, but you have to keep a certain level of politeness about you. Uh, and when I was in my last year, heading into my last year of my undergraduate degree, I had applied for a job with the Alberta Gun Registry, I think, which was like newly formed. And I had this sort of thought about a desk job where I was basically doing like a data entry job. Like I was just plugging in, information into a spreadsheet essentially for this registry. And I had that sort of epiphany of, oh no, that's not going to be what I want to do. And so it was, scraping and clawing in my last year to pull my grades up and try to make a case for getting into grad school. And I was fully prepared, I think, to take additional classes, retake some stuff. And when I sent my application in, Troni Grand, who is uh, was the former English department head, and at the time she was the English department grad chair. She's a VP on campus now. Really great. If you can never take a class from Troni, highly recommended. And she basically called me and said, "What happened in the last year of your degree? Because you went from kind of, these some marks that were in the high 80s, but you had some marks that are in the 50s and 60s, and then suddenly you had straight A's in the last year." And I told her that I simply started going to class. Like I didn't miss a class the entire final year. And she's sort of like, I don't want to really, she's like, I don't really care about whatever happened in the other years, but do you think you can maintain going to class if you come to the University of Regina? And so I had offers from the University of Ottawa, and I had an offer from the University of Regina, and I have some family members in Ottawa. My parents are from Ottawa, and I hadn't seen them in years, but they're a bit much, and I thought, maybe I'll kind of head back. It's like homecoming when you don't really know anybody. So I came back to Regina and thought, well, I'll be there. I'll be in Regina for 2 years, obviously, and I've been here. Oh, like over 15 years. So your path, whatever you're dealing with and thinking about in terms of your university career, even the degree you're getting, I think this is going to shift and change. And I got to grad school, and I did. I went to all the classes. I, for the first time, tried to read absolutely everything I could in those classes, and then really found a sort of home, I guess, in terms of being able to. I was the president of the English Grad Student Association. I sort of scraped and clawed a little bit to stay on campus. I was writing a thesis on Fight Club, and I was wrapping that up. And I applied for a job at the Center on Aging and Health, which is a university research center located in the Adham building. It's a place run by Dr. Thomas Hadjisaropoulos. And when I went to apply for the job, it was a half-time job. I really needed the money to pay my rent, and kind of just thought like, well, I'm going to be getting this degree, and I'll figure out what I'm going to do next. And apply for the job. There was a lineup of a bunch of psychology students. Thomas is a psychology professor, and so it was all the psychology students, and then this one English student. And I thought, well, I'm certainly not going to get this. And part of the interview was to listen to Dr. Hadjisaropoulos talk about his research and write a newsletter article. And he called me to offer me the job and said, the article you wrote was just far better than the psychology students, so you got the job. And I thought it was another one of those, I'm going to be there for a year, get things figured out and be on my way. And it was, half-time job. So I was able to teach some classes and be a sessional on campus, which is what I really like to do. But all the while I was learning some administrative skills. I was making a lot of contacts on campus. And the job allowed me that anytime there was an opportunity on campus to do a writing support job or a teaching job, I was able to say yes because I could do halftime at the center and halftime teaching or otherwise. So uh, some of my colleagues at Luther when I was laughing, like, is there anyone on campus you don't know? And I say probably not, because I've been all of these places. I was at the Center on Aging Health for a long time. I taught public policy, half co-taught some public policy research and writing classes at the Johnson Shoyama. When I was a student, I was the chief returning officer for URSU in their elections. So I got to sit on the URSU board, see student politics come up close. I took a job at the Student Success Center as their coordinator of writing services, which I did for a number of years, helping students improve their writing, which is what I do now. And I've been a sessional for the University of Regina, for Campion, and for Luther. And so now I'm the Writing Across Disciplines coordinator and English instructor here. And I think all of these things, like being able to think about different disciplines and be able to think about how do people write, how do people communicate, how can I empower students to write in different forms so that when they're applying for jobs, they're the best candidate, kind of like I was at the Center on Aging and Health. How do I help my colleagues who are teaching writing impart some lessons in our students at Luther so that they want to engage in those writing practices, because writing is hard and practicing writing is frustrating and that never really goes away. And so we're trying some like innovative ways to think about using podcasting for writing, which I'll talk about, and just try to really hammer home that Luther College students, when they graduate from our college here, are out there being able to get the job, but also to be able to lend their voice to a bunch of different causes and help out.